All right, guys, we are getting ready to create our first Adobe Illustrator assignment. And what you're going to be creating today contains a variety of objects that we are going to make, and it has kind of a summer theme to it. So this is called a flat summer design. It's flat because it's just two-dimensional for the objects that we're going to create. So we're going to work with the basic shapes and tools in Illustrator, and I'm going to show you some of the functions you can use, and all of the things that we're going to do in this first project is going to help you to learn the basics of Illustrator for creating future projects. So the first thing we need to do is open up Illustrator. So if it isn't on your menu bar, then you're going to go to your Launchpad and find the Adobe Illustrator icon. Your screen probably looks different than mine because I've already played with Illustrator quite a bit this year. So we're going to go to Create New. And this document that we're going to set up, we want to go all the way over to your Art and Illustration tab. Click on that, please. And now we want to name this. So over here in the preset, let's name it Summer Flat Design. And you can go ahead and put your initials there so that I will know that this is your document. We also have some settings that we're going to change. So over here in our units, we want to change this to pixels. So from the drop-down button, change it to pixels, please. We only need one artboard. We want the width of this to be 850 pixels wide, so change that value to 850. If you hit the tab button, it'll automatically go down to the height value, and if it's highlighted, you don't have to hit delete or backspace or anything like that. You just type in the number and it'll delete the preset one automatically. So we hit 600. And we want to make sure that it is in landscape mode, which is this one right here, where we have it more horizontal than vertical. We also want to make sure that our mode is in RGB. So if your color mode is not in RGB, you want to click on this Advanced Options button, and this is where you change that so it is in RGB. We do not want CMYK. That's going to be something different. So once we have these settings all correct, you have it named Summer Flat Design, we have our units changed to pixels, and the dimensions are 850 by 600 in landscape mode, one artboard, and RGB is our color mode. As soon as you have that, go ahead and hit Create, and Illustrator will get your document ready for you. All right, mine's kind of zoomed in a little bit, so I'm going to zoom out. If you ever want to zoom your document, you can hold down Command and the minus will zoom out. If you hold down Command and plus, then it will go ahead and zoom it in for you. And I'm just using my mouse pad to move my document where I can see it. You might not have anything over here on the side, or you may have something that's there. This is just a special Windows tab that comes up. And what I do want you to have is we need to make sure that we have our layers panel that is out for us. So in order to get our layers panel, the first thing we need to do is come up here to Window, and you need to find the one that says Layers. And we're going to click on that so that there is a check mark by it. Oh, you know what? It's not being shown on mine. If you can't see it right now, what you'll need to do is click on this green plus sign, and that should have it up. So if you already saw it, that's great. If not, do those following things that I just told you to do. So these are the different things that I have open right now. This is the one that I want you to worry about at the moment. This is Layers. So we are going to create a total of 7 layers for this art project. And in order to have anything in Illustrator and even in Photoshop, your layers are incredibly important with your work because it allows you to isolate one section of your work at a time so that you're not interfering with different aspects when you're trying to manipulate them. So we have one layer that comes up automatically. So in order to add a new layer, we're going to click down here. Looks like a piece of paper with the corner turned up. That is our Create New Layer button. Do not do this one here. That's Create New Sublayer, and that puts a layer underneath another layer. So we want just this one here. And each layer is essentially like a plate of glass that we are designing on. And so as you put those layers together, they're going to be different layers on top of the other one. So the layer 1 right now is going to be the bottom layer, and layer 7 is the one that's going to be on top. So if we move these around as we're creating objects, they might cover each other up. So you need to have awareness of that. This eyeball icon over here is what tells you whether or not you can see that layer, whether it's visible to you. So if I were to unclick that, or excuse me, to click it and uncheck it, then layer 5 would now be invisible to me. I couldn't see it. So I'll click it back and then it would be visible. But since I have absolutely nothing done yet, all of these are blank pieces of glass stacked on top of each other. So now what we want to do is name our layers so we know what each one is. So you saw that I clicked this button, so I have a total of 7 layers. And now I want to name each layer. So you can double click, there you go. So with your mouse, double click on there in the left mouse button and see how it's highlighted. Now you don't have to hit delete. All you have to do is type in what you want this layer to be called. So layer 7 is our details. It's DETAILS. And then hit enter and it changes the name. Now I'm going to name layer 6 suitcase. So these are the names of the things we're going to create. Layer 5 is named umbrella. Let me double click on there. There we go. Layer 4, swim shorts or swim trunks if you prefer. Layer 3 is your beach towel. You can see all these summer themed items that we're going to make. Layer 2 is surfboard. And then the very last bottom layer is going to be our background. So you should have these 7 layers all named and ready to go. You'll notice that there's colors over here. You can specify in Illustrator what you want each one to be. If it'll let me, there we go. So I double clicked over here outside of where the name is. And so there's the name of that layer. You can change the color if you want to. It doesn't really matter. It's just so that you know that that layer is marked with that color. There are other things that are over here. This allows you to lock a layer in place or to toggle it. I'm trying to get it off of there now. It won't let me. Actually, I want to go down here. Let's go to our surfboard because we're going to do our surfboard layer first. It will not let me untoggle that. Okay, we'll see if I can fix that later. All right, so we have our 7 layers ready to go, and we are going to get started with our surfboard. So it's very important that whatever it is that we're creating, we're on that correct layer. So we want to make sure that it's marked. So this little corner piece right there, that's the layer that we're going to be working on. So we want only the surfboard to be on the surfboard layer. So once you're sure that that is done, then we can go ahead and start creating on that layer of glass for the surfboard. So the first thing that we have to do is make a rectangle. And this rectangle is going to be the base for our entire surfboard. So over here, these are our tools. You can see that we have lots of tools that Adobe Illustrator gives you. If you do not see these tools at all, you'll want to come back over here to your window, here where the tools are, and make sure it's checked on default. If you see the colors that I have over here, but you don't see that on your screen, then you would want to make sure that color is checked right there. These are all the different things that we can pull up as extra windows to work with. All right, so now we know we have our tools ready. The first tool that we're going to want to get is our shape tool. So that's this one right here that just so happens to have a rectangle on it. And you can see whenever I hover over that area, that tool, it tells me the name of it that's shown, and it also has something in parentheses. That thing that's in parentheses is the shortcut command for that tool. So if I just press M on my keyboard, notice that this is now highlighted and my cursor changed to crosshairs. So M is what you use to pull up the rectangle tool. So you could also, this little drop down arrow right here, if you click on that, oh, you got to do a right click, sorry. So right click on the mouse, and these are the different shapes that you can create just within this tool. So we want the regular rectangle tool, and we're going to draw our rectangle so that it's 20 by 420. Now that's going to be kind of hard to get specifically, so it takes a long time to get that exactly the way you want. So I'm going to teach you an easy way. So you just go ahead and release and have any regular rectangle, and then come up here. These are all of the different settings that you have for the rectangle tool. And if you click on shape, right here, you can specify what you want that shape to be. So this rectangle is going to be 20 pixels. So I'm going to change the length, or excuse me, the width to 20. And then the height is going to be 420. So I'm going to change that value to 420 and hit enter. And then this is what you should get. If, however, you click on this shape and you notice that this section right here looks like this, where it looks like there are two chain links together, and you go to try to type in, let's say I mess up and I typed in 240 and I hit enter, you'll notice that it changed my width over here from where it was 20. That's because what this does is when you hit that button and they're linked together, it keeps a constant height and width proportion, and we don't want that. We want to be able to alter it without having it at a set ratio. So you unclick that. So now it's not set, they're not linked, and now you can make sure that you can alter each value. Oh, did it go back? 20 by 2. Oh, I forgot. I got to change this back to 420. There we go. That's what you should see. Now, if you notice, right now, my crosshairs are still there where my mouse is, and I want to start altering the shape. So in order to alter my shape, if I click on my artboard, it keeps making me rectangles. That's because you still have your rectangle tool selected, and we don't want to use those. So in order to make it so that we can start manipulating this rectangle, I want you to come over here to your selection tool. So that's the name of it. Get you back to where you have your cursor again, and you can see that that shortcut command is V. So you can either set it there, or you can just press V on your screen, on your keyboard, and then you can use your selection tool. So now this allows you to select these individual things. So I'm going to select each one of these and delete it because I don't want them on here. So now I get to alter this, so I'm actually creating my surfboard. And I'm going to move it down just a little bit so I have some space available to me. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to give a color to our surfboard. So in order to manipulate the color, we have two ways that we can do it. Right here is the fill color. This one here shows that it's like an outline, is actually your outline color, or what Illustrator refers to as the stroke. You'll also see these down here. And this is where I tend to like to work with them, because sometimes when you click on this, you have these preset ones. What I prefer to do is double click on the fill. There we go. And it will bring up the color picker. So when we're doing something where you get to choose your own color, you can choose from anything in here, and then you can move around to all these different shades and hues of that color. But we want to use very specific colors. So we're going to have separate R red, G green, B blue values. And each color has its own code. So the code that I want you to put in is over here. So where this number sign is, it's not a hashtag because we're not doing Twitter. So this number sign, we're going to put a number for a color for our surfboard. So it is composed of 6 digits total that are made up of both numbers and letters. It's called hexadecimal. Some of you, if you've ever done coding, might know that. So the hexadecimal number that we need is F9A03F. You don't need to worry about uppercase or lowercase. It's not case sensitive. So when you have that value typed in, hit enter, and you see we have this nice orange color for our surfboard. Now there is a problem with this. Since we are doing a flat design, we don't want any of the things that we're working on to have an outline or a stroke. So right now we have a black outline on this. So this section right here, that is the stroke. And right now it's not active. Our fill color, because it's in the front, is what we are controlling right now. So in order to control the stroke, you double click on that and notice that it brings this to the front. So now the stroke is what is active, which means it's what we can control. We do not want a stroke value. So over here, down below, if we go this middle section, that gives it a gradient, which is where you're blending colors together. This is a whole solid color, and this one here means none. So if we click on there, we're telling the computer, hey, I don't want this object to have a stroke color. So you notice I clicked on that, but look, my rectangle still has a stroke, because all I really did was tell the computer, hey, from now on, whatever object I put in there, don't give it a stroke. I didn't specify to this object not to have a stroke. So as soon as I clicked on it, you see that it popped back up. So now that I'm clicked on it and the computer knows that this is what I'm talking about, I'll come back over here, activate the stroke, put none. I'm going to bring my fill back so that it's active. And if I click off of the rectangle, you'll see that that black stroke value went away. And that's exactly what I want. All right, so that's a lot of stuff just for one rectangle. So now we're going to take this rectangle and we're going to make it look more like a surfboard. So in order to do that, we're going to use special functions of Illustrator. So I want you to come up to Object. Oops, hold on, make sure it's checked first. Make sure that you have that rectangle highlighted, or else it's not going to do anything. So go up here to Object, then to Shape. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm telling you guys the wrong thing. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my directions at the same time that I'm working on here. I actually want you to go to Shape over here. And we want to round those corners a little bit. So we've got a perfect rectangle and we want it actually to be rounded. So here's our width and our length that we had before. Here are our 4 corners. So we've got the top left corner, bottom left, top right, bottom right. You see that this one here looks like the links or the chains linked together. What that means is as soon as I go to change one corner, all 4 corners are going to change at the same time, which is what we want. So make sure that these are linked, and we want to round our corners to the maximum value. So there are two ways we can do this. We can figure it out mathematically. So if I have two corners for my width and the total width is 20, the maximum value that I can change both of them would be 20 divided by 2, which is 10. Or, since they're linked, you can just hit this up button and it will go as far as it'll go. And the most that it can go is 10 because you have two corners and the total width is only 20. So that's the most that it can go. So now if I click off of it, click off of the thing so that you can see how now have a nice long popsicle looking stick, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and do that effect stuff that I was trying to get ahead of. So I'm clicking on the shape, go up here to effect, and then we're going to go to warp, which is right here under Illustrator Effects. And then we're going to go to bulge. So we're going to bulge this out to make it look more like a surfboard. So warp, then bulge, and we're going to have some settings that pop up. So what we want to do is we want it to bulge out. I'm going to smooth this over so you can see what happens. We don't want it to bulge out horizontally because that would make it kind of more squat. We want the vertical bulge. So make sure that you click vertical. And then we're going to change the bend value to 30%. We're not going to do any distortion, so don't change anything in the distortion. We're going to do the bend value. Now here's a tip. If you want to see what happens before you actually do it, click on this button right here that says preview. So you can see how I already put it on vertical and then the bend is at 50, and that's kind of wild, right? So we don't want it that much. Here, let me change it back to horizontal, and you can see what happens if I change that value. It's not really doing much, right? So let's put it on vertical, and I'm going to type in 30% here. And you can kind of see how this is looking more like our surfboard. So when you have those settings the way you want them, the way that we need them to be, go ahead and hit OK. Now you can see that it warped it out, it bulged it out, but we still have the base popsicle looking thing here in the middle. So in order to get that away, we need to expand the effect so that the computer recognizes these are the new edges of our shape. So in order to expand the effect, I want you to go up here to Object, Expand Appearance, okay? And we got to go back and do it again. So now go Object, Expand. Notice how Expand Appearance went away? So now we have to go Object, Expand, and there we go. Now we've got our nice little surfboard shape, our base shape. Doesn't quite look exactly like a surfboard, so we're going to do a little bit to make it look more like a surfboard. And if you've ever seen a surfboard, you'll notice that there are these little like pointed parts down here at the end. And so in order to get that, it's kind of hard to delete things in Illustrator. Like I can't get my eraser tool and just erase it and make it look right. Illustrator doesn't work that way. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to cut out something that looks like the shape that we want to remove. And so the best thing that will make that shape is a triangle. So I come back over here to my tools, and if I do a right click on that drop down, you'll see a polygon tool. So a polygon is anything other than a rectangle or an ellipse or a star. So if you click on that, and we're going to come up to, oh, where did it go? Never mind. So now that that's clicked, I want you to just click once onto your artboard. So you have these settings that pop up. So I want you to have your radius set at 50 pixels. And then we want a triangle, so we only need 3 sides for a triangle. And then they'll all be the same. So So you click on that, and then there we go. We have our triangle. Now because we had this still set at this color, our fill color, and then no stroke value, then our triangle is going to be the exact same thing. So now notice I have my crosshairs, so if I click anywhere on here, I'm going to make another triangle. So I want to go back over here to my selection tool and click on that so I can move my triangle, or just hit V on your keyboard. Remember, you want to try to learn all of these shortcut commands. So here's my triangle. I'm going to move it over here to about the space where I want to cut away to make it actually look like a surfboard. So you can move it up a little bit if it doesn't look quite right. You've got these guides, so notice these pink lines that show up. They're pink on mine, they might be pink or a different color on yours, but they will show up to help you with your alignment. So it kind of helps you see. So if I wanted the edge, notice how it shows me exactly where the edge is on there. I'm trying to get it. There's the left edge, but I want it in the middle, so it's centered. There we go. And that looks pretty good, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up cutting that section out. So in order to do this, there's a couple things that you're going to have to do. First, we need to select this whole thing. So in order to do that, with our selection tool in use, I'm going to click over here on the side with my left mouse button, and I'm going to drag this little box around both parts. And notice that it grabbed both the surfboard and the triangle. So now what we need to do is use a special part of Illustrator that's going to cut away everything that's over here. So this triangle is in the front. So what we're going to do is go to our window, and I want you to find the window that says Pathfinder. It's right there. Click on that, and that should bring up your Pathfinder over here. Might be somewhere else on your screen. And what we're going to do is we want to use the command that's called -front, because that will cut away the stuff that's in the front, which is our triangle, because we put that on top of the surfboard, and anything that's behind it too, so that section of the surfboard. So this is unite, we don't want that. There's -front. So if we click on that, then that triangle and what was underneath it should disappear. So I'm going to move my Pathfinder back over here so it's out of my way. We'll use that several times today. If you close that, that's okay. You can always pull it back open. So now I've got where it's really starting to look more like a surfboard, but not quite the way that I want. So I'm going to do a little bit of fine tuning. We're going to tweak this a little bit. So in order to tweak it, now we're going to use the anchor point tool. So the anchor point tool, I got to find which one it is again. I just know the shortcut command. Oh, it's over here. Might be hidden behind the warp tool. Nope, that's not what it is. All right, I'm just going to tell you guys the shortcut command. So the anchor point tool is going to be Shift-C. There it is right there. There's our anchor point tool. So I want you to hold down Shift-C, and you'll notice that it's got these little dots on here. These are anchor points. So those are sections that the computer marks as the main sections of the surfboard. So what we're going to do is if you click on, oops, all right, I'm going to teach you something else. If you messed up like I just did, there's this thing called Command-Z. It's undo. Command-Z is your friend. If you ever mess up on something, you just hit Command-Z and it will undo whatever your last thing was. So let me tell you, try that one more time. So get my anchor point tool. Sorry, do a right click. Nope, not right click. Ah, it's not doing it. It should just pop up on you, but I don't know why mine's messing up so much. And so now we have these handles that we're going to manipulate a little bit. So if you grab the handle with your mouse, and I'm going to kind of make that top part a little bit fatter. And my bottom part too, kind of bulge it out. Now I want to go on the other side. There we go. And pull that out. So this is something where you can decide exactly how you want your surfboard to look. You can make yours a little bit fatter or skinnier than mine. Again, if you mess up and it does something that you don't want it to do, Command Z. So that's what I just did, and it kind of altered it back. So now I got to fix that again the way that I want. So get your surfboard the way you want it to be. As soon as you're ready for the next step, you're going to come back up here and get your selection tool, or again, just touch V. All right, so now I've got it shaped the way that I want it to be. So now I'm going to start decorating it a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do for our decoration is we're going to make a rectangle. So I'm going to come over here to my polygon tool. I want it to be the rectangle tool. So I right click on that drop down arrow, and I can click on rectangle tool, or if I know my shortcut commands, I know just to hit M. And now I'm going to draw a rectangle. Let's say about that size. So the size that I have, you can see it's 276 pixels by 98. Yours does not have to be exact. I want to go back to my selection tool, or V, because I want to move this. I kind of want it down here, kind of where the top is at almost the middle, down maybe a little bit below. So I don't want an orange rectangle because that's going to look funky. So let's change it to a pink color. So come over here to our color fill, double click to bring up our color picker, and the code or hexadecimal code that we're going to type in, since it's already highlighted, you can just start typing and it'll delete everything that's there. So I'm going to do F294B6. Hit enter. You see we have this nice pink color. So I'm going to click off of it so you can see where it's at. So now, how do I get rid of this extra stuff that's there? I could do the Pathfinder that we did before and then the minus front, but I'm going to show you something else. So now what I want you to do is you're going to highlight both the rectangle and your surfboard, and you can see that it's got all of it in there because we see all the sections together. And I want you to use the shape builder tool. So this is Shift. You need to hold down the Shift key and then M. Okay. No, I don't want that. Go away. So now what we're going to do, so if I hover over a section, you'll see that it puts this like grid over it, and you'll notice a plus sign next to my cursor. If you hold down the Alt button, which is what I want you to do, notice that the plus changed to minus. So I want you to, as long as you're holding down the Alt button, click on the section that we want to have gone away. So that deleted that section. I click here and I delete the other one. I'm going to delete, I got something there too. I don't know what it is, but it's got to go away. I don't know what that is. Okay, there we go. I had something extra on my screen. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to this or not, but as I've been building my surfboard, notice over here in the layers that you're seeing exactly what we're building, and as you change it, it will change too. So I told you that each layer is like a piece of glass. So it's showing you what you're putting on that piece of glass as you're building it. All right, let's go back to decorating some more. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do another rectangle. This one's not going to be as big as the pink one, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to put it underneath about there. And let's go ahead and change the color. I wasn't sure what that size was. I'll tell you over here if you want to make it just like mine. So it's 214 by 67, but yours doesn't have to be the exact same size, but it needs to be similar. So let's change our color. I'm going to activate my stroke, so I don't want a stroke value. Now come back to your fill, activate it, and double click to get our color picker. In the code for this color, it's kind of a magenta color, so it's DF2754. Enter, and there's our magenta color. So I want to delete that extra stuff again. And this is kind of why we're not going to do any of the Pathfinder delete or minus front, because we would end up deleting a bunch of stuff we don't want to. So before we can do that, you have to get to your selection tool. Then we're going to make our little box around all parts. Then do Shift M. So now we have it basically into all these little puzzle pieces. Hold down Alt so it changes to minus, and we're going to click on the sections we want to delete. So if I click on there, look, it deletes everything. I don't want that. So remember, if you do something you don't want to, Command Z is your undo. That's your friend. All right, I'm going back to my selection tool. We're still going to do some more decorating with this. So now we're going to do a pale pink rectangle, and I'm going to show you how you can create two rectangles at this kind of the same time. So go back to your rectangle tool, or M if you're using your shortcuts. And this time I want you to make like a skinnier rectangle than what we've had. Let's go ahead and change the color. So go to your fill and double click. The color that I want you to put in is F9CDDF. Now you should have a nice pale pink one. So I want you to actually have two. So I'm going to hit V so that I end up with my selection tool. There are two ways that you can duplicate this. You can do copy and paste, and that is Command C, then Command V for paste, V as in Victor. But an easier way is to hold down, so when you're clicked on here, hold down Alt and then drag, and boom, I've got two of them. So I was clicking on this rectangle, pressed down Alt and held it, and then I dragged that other rectangle off, and that gave me two rectangles. So now let's place them where they'll look kind of cool. So I'm going to place this one down here at the bottom, and then this one up here at the top. There we go. And now I'm going to delete the parts that I don't want. So remember, we got to drag a box over everything. Then we do Shift M. Hold down Alt to change it from plus to minus, and delete those extra parts. Go back to my selection tool so I have it ready to go. And now we're going to do one last major decorating thing. We're going to add 3 little circles onto our surfboard. So now you get to use the ellipse tool. So over here at the rectangle tool, right click, grab your ellipse tool, L is the shortcut, and I'm going to draw, I'd say about that big. So that's 34.5 pixels. And since it's a circle, you want the height and width to be the same. We're not doing an ellipse, we're just doing a circle. Let's change the color. Get your color picker up. And the color is a pale orange, so it's F9D1AA. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and make a smaller circle, like that. And since I had that same color in there, I do want that same color. It duplicated the color. I'm going to get my selection tool because I'm just going to make a copy of this small one. So remember, there are 2 ways to do it. You can do Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste, or hold down Alt while it's selected, and then just drag and, oops, try that again, it wasn't, got to click on it. Hold down Alt and then drag. Why is it not doing it? There we go. Sorry, guys. I must not have been holding it down, or I didn't click on it all the way. So once you have your two, kind of align them. Look a little bit like that. Yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but you should have them over here on the left-hand side of the surfboard. All right, one last step and then our surfboard is done. So the next thing that we're going to do is add kind of like a shadow effect to it, okay? So in order to create a shadow effect, I want you to come over here to your rectangle tool, or to your toolboard, grab the rectangle tool, and I want you to make a rectangle that's going to cover one side of your surfboard. So I'm using my alignment guides, making sure I'm right there in the center, and then I'm going to start and drag just to make sure I have a rectangle big enough to cover that whole side. So now the color that we want this rectangle to be is this magenta color right here. So you could go back in and type in that exact same color code into that, but I'm going to show you guys an easier way. So if you come over here to your eyedropper tool and click on that, then come over here, so we have the eyedropper, you can see it. Click on the magenta color, and then notice that it changed it to magenta for us. So I'm going back to my selection tool so I don't keep picking up colors with my eyedropper tool. And now what we need to do is put a transparency over this. So we got to go over here to our window and then move down a little bit till you find transparency. So now you see that we have it over here, and notice that it's that magenta rectangle. That's what we want to put a transparency on. Okay, so you got to make sure you just see that rectangle. If you see anything other than the rectangle, then you have other stuff checked, and we only want to check that rectangle. So we're going to change it from normal to multiply, and notice what it did there. We're going to change our opacity, which means how much it covers. So right now it's at 100%. We don't want it that high. We want it to just be 30%. So change it from 100 to 30. Hit enter. So you notice that it lightened it quite a bit, but it looks like we have this shadow effect. So now all we need to do is get rid of this extra stuff. So I'm hoping you remember now how to do that. If not, let me show you again. So click the left, drag a rectangle, make sure it covers everything. Then do Shift M, hold down Alt, and get rid of that section right there that we don't need. So notice, got that over there shown. It's over here in our surfboard layer. We're all good to go. So I'm going to get my selection tool. There's only one thing we have left to do with our surfboard, and that is to make sure we group it all together. For whatever object we make, as soon as you are done with it, you want to make sure that it's grouped, because if not, and you come over here and you accidentally start moving something, you could cut the whole thing apart and mess it up. So I don't want you to do that. So I'm putting everything back. Oops, need to redo. There we go. So now it's back to where it was. So in order to group it, we're going to drag that box over the whole thing like we did before when we wanted to delete extra stuff. Notice it has all the parts together. You could go up here to Object, Group, or just do the shortcut command. So that symbol right there is the Command and then G. So to group it, Command G. Now notice that it's all together. So if I go to move it, I move the entire thing instead of just one portion of it. So there we go. That is our surfboard. So I am going to stop my recording for now and do the rest of the things in other recordings, just because this takes kind of a long time and I don't want these recordings to be super long. So that's all we have for the surfboard. So as soon as you have your surfboard done, then you can go ahead and watch the other tutorials. I'll see you guys soon.